Hello guys and welcome back to another super efficient build guide, and today we're looking at building 5 modular engines per minute for our space elevator. Now these are obviously later game items and thus require a much larger assortment of raw resources and resources in general. So for this, to keep the guide short, we will be importing 30 rotors and 20 stators per minute. These are for the motors and smart plating. However, if you've not got the rotors and stators free, I have already done a 10 motor super efficient build guide which you can use, and then import 10 rotors, which I've also covered in a video. I'll place both of them in the cards above for you. Note that you can also find a written guide to support this video at satisfactorytips.com. The link is also in the description. So for this build, we will be using a total of 120 iron ore, 30 rotors, 20 stators, 112.5 crude oil, and we will also need the resources to build the following buildings: 5 manufacturers, 6 refineries, 9 assemblers, 8 constructors, 4 smelters, and a single awesome sink. Now this build will be done on a 13 by 18 grid, and once up and running will cost no more than 668 megawatts. Take note that at the bottom of the grid we also have the iron ore brought up in the 7th column in the brown box, followed by the rotors in the 8th column in white, then stators in the 9th column coloured in turquoise, followed by crude oil in the 10th column. During this build, you will also need a maximum belt speed of Mark IIs. However, I will be using Mark IIIs across the build as it's much easier to produce and thus much easier to use. Now, in order to give you as much creative freedom as possible, I will be covering the basic layout, so feel free to move things around should you wish to. And to help you, I will list what's going on at the start of each section. First, we will sort out the iron production. Now, the iron ore will run to 4 smelters, of which 3 will be dedicated to iron plates, leading to 3 constructors, and the 4th smelter will run iron to a screw production line, which will use 2 constructors to produce the iron rods, followed by 3 constructors for screws. Now the screws and plates will then be run to 2 assemblers to produce reinforced iron plates. So the 4 smelters will be placed in the middle of the 4th column of the 2nd row and will be placed up to the 7th row. These will all be set to iron, with the first smelter running the iron to a splitter, followed by 2 constructors that span the 1st and 2nd and 2nd and 3rd column of the 4th row. These will both be set to iron rods before merging and then splitting between 3 more constructors that will be placed in the 1st, 2nd and 3rd column of the 6th row. These 3 constructors will then be set to screws and then merge into a manifold line, which will feed 2 assemblers that span the 1st and 2nd and 3rd and 4th column, starting in the 9th row. These will both be then set to reinforced iron plates. Next, in front of the 3 remaining smelters, back in the 2nd row, we shall place 3 more constructors, which will be set to iron plates. I've placed these 3 constructors in line with the screw constructors directly in front of the 3 smelters. These constructors will run the iron plates up into the assemblers along with the screws. We will then merge the reinforced iron plates with them facing the left of the grid. We shall now place the remaining 2 assembler lines. Now the first line of 5 assemblers will be taking the reinforced iron plates and 1/3 of the rotors to produce smart plating. And the second will be taking the rotors and stators that are remaining to produce motors in a further 2 assemblers. Now place 5 assemblers next to one another facing the top of the build, starting in the 1st column of the 12th row. We shall now build a manifold line. The bottom row will be running the reinforced iron plates, and the top row will be taking 10 rotors of the 30 that we should have for this build. Now if you are importing the 10 rotors and 10 motors, then run the 10 rotors along to the top of the manifold line, running to the left. For everyone else though, we will need to create a 1/3 split for the rotors. To do this, we will be placing a splitter down followed by a merger, and we will want one of the output lines from the splitter heading to this section of assemblers, with the other two outputs merged to go on to become motors. Next, we will be covering the rubber. So in this section, we will have 3.75 refineries producing rubber to go on to the modular engines, with the heavy oil residue heading to 1.875 refineries, turning the excess heavy oil residue into petroleum coke to be sunk. So at this point, we will need to turn the crude oil into rubber. First, we shall place 4 refineries facing the right of the build, starting in the 9th column of the second row. These will be all set to rubber, with one of the refineries being set at 75% clock speed. The rubber will then be merged and run up to the top of the build. I should mention at this point that I have added the 2 more refineries. These have been placed in the 8th row and are producing petroleum coke from the heavy oil residue. This is then sunk in the awesome sink, and one of these refineries will need to be set at 87.5% clock speed. To finish off this build, we will need to place 5 manufacturers in the 1st column through to the 11th column in the 17th row. Now these need to be set to modular engines, with the outputs merged and then sent to storage. And on the front side, we will also need another 3-tier manifold. The first line will be fed by smart plating, the second line by motors, and the third line by rubber. So the first line is fed from the left and heading to the right, and the top 2 are from the right heading to the left. Now once done, you should have a fully functioning plant that produces a total of 5 modular engines per minute, which can be used to unlock the 7th and 8th tier of the space elevator. And don't worry, these 5 modular engines will be used in your thermal propulsion rocket line to unlock tier 8's leading edge production, which we'll be getting to eventually. And I really do hope, guys, that you found this video helpful. If so, do consider hitting the like button, and if you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe. And while you're at it, why not comment below and let me know what it is you'd like to see us produce in the next video. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much to all of our amazing supporters who allow me to make this happen. Most notably our Solar Eclipse patrons, the Calamity and Cerebral Tag, as well as our Lunar Eclipse patrons Dixie Chris and James Irwin, as well as our Blood Moon of the day, which today is Kareev Johnny. Anyway, guys, until next time, as always, ciao for now.